Welcome back. It's One Bills Live. John Murphy with Steve Tasker coming here from our Seneca studio in Orchard Park. And we've got a special guest on the line who's making his way to Western New York this weekend for the Bills game against the Eagles. Former Bills quarterback, former Patriots quarterback, Drew Bledsoe on the line with us. Hello, Drew. John Murphy and Steve Tasker here in Buffalo. You're on the move. You're not driving all the way from Washington State to Buffalo, are you?
No, I get to fly the red eye tonight. I've got a daughter that's playing a soccer game, and the only way I can get out there tomorrow for a Saturday deal is fly the red eye. So I'll be super fresh when I get to Buffalo.
Yeah, excellent. Perfect. Just like the rest of us. Yeah. Anyway, I know you spent some time in New England, and we've had this ongoing conversation about how well they're playing, how well they played over there. You're acquainted with Tom and all this stuff. And also Mr. Kraft, Robert Kraft. And I have this theory about, and it's a big story about how it's going to end for Tom Brady. And it rarely ends well for these legendary players. Some of them have a real hard time saying goodbye. Do you think that's on the horizon for those guys up there?
It's amazing. It seems like it's been years and years that the question has been, how long is Tom going to play, and how's that whole thing going to end? But then they just kind of keep going. In terms of how it ends for him, I thought he was pretty candid in an interview he did this week, where he just said he doesn't know. He doesn't know. When he's going to be done with it, when he's going to be ready to hang it up. So I don't know the answer either. But I'm certain that Tom's a thoughtful enough guy that I'm sure he'll have a plan when that time comes.
All right, so you're headed back to Buffalo, and it's the first time in a long time you've been back, but you still have, you still left a little bit of a legacy here. You had a 463-yard passing day in an overtime win against Minnesota. Do you have any recollection about that record-setting day?
Yeah, it didn't start out very well, is what I remember, and then we ended up chucking it around the field the whole second half, got it to overtime, and then Peerless Price caught this one and took it to the house and ended it in overtime without having to kick a field goal.
Very nice.
I think that's one of the very few records I have that still stands. I think anyway is overtime touchdown passes, which I think it'll probably go down now because now there's like an incentive to try and win the game with a touchdown rather than just kick field goals. But I thought that one had a chance though because everybody would just kick field goals and not try for touchdowns in overtime.
We're on the line with Drew Bledsoe, making his way back to Buffalo for this weekend's game, the Bills and the Eagles. Hey, Drew, I think back to that trade right around draft day, I guess, 2002, when the Bills acquired you from New England. What were your thoughts back then? Were you shocked that the Patriots made that deal and coming to Buffalo? What did you think? And they had a huge reception for you, obviously, in the parking lot here.
Yeah, I was surprised, quite honestly, that happened. And then, it's a story that you guys know so well from so many guys that have come to Buffalo. Your perception from the outside of what it's like playing for the Buffalo Bills versus what it's actually like are pretty darn different. I had an amazing experience playing there in Buffalo. Wish it could have gone much, much longer and wish we could have had more success. But, man, we had a great time playing there. Loved being a part of that organization and even more so, loved being a part of that community. It was just really a fun place to play, great fans, and it was fantastic.
Well, you're coming back this weekend as a Bills legend to come back and watch the Bills play the Eagles. I know you're neck deep in wine now these days. Do you keep track of what happens and about this game you're coming to be a part of, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I'm a football fan. I that's never changed, man. And I have said this in the past, and this is true without making anybody angry in New England or any of that stuff, man. If the Bills go on and actually win a Super Bowl, I'll probably paint my face and maybe even jump on a table or something. The organization and the fans out there, they deserve a championship. And so to see the Bills playing as well as they are is really exciting. So it'll be a lot of fun to be there. The Eagles are banged up. They're going to have their hands full. It's a hard defense to score against especially when you come into Orchard Park. So I'm excited to be there for it. I know it'll be rocking.
The atmosphere in the stadium here in Orchard Park has not changed much since you were here, Drew. What's that like, and how does that compare to all the venues in the NFL in terms of difficulty for an opponent to play in?
Yeah. I was an opponent there for 9 years before I got to be on the home team. As an opponent, man, it was tough. I mean, it was really a tough place to play. I always really enjoyed it. The fans were passionate and loud, and say things that weren't particularly nice to you sometimes. You're coming up the tunnel. But as a home player, man, it was fantastic. I still remember clearly that first Wednesday morning before my first home opener. Driving in on Wednesday morning early, and I came in and asked the equipment guys, like, "Hey, Woody, what's going on? Is there an RV show? What is this?" And he goes, "Oh no, those people are tailgating. They start on Tuesday and tailgate until Sunday," which that doesn't happen very many other places in the NFL, at least that I know of. But it was a great home environment. Loved it. New England, they've been I've been back there for a handful of games. They've gotten awfully spoiled out there. I mean, it's just not that loud a place to play anymore. But I'm anticipating that Orchard Park is the opposite. That they're still just rocking and rolling.
At one point, you were the number 1 overall pick of the Patriots in 1993, and I just had this statistic in front of me. 87 of the 106 games in the National Football League had a quarterback that was under 26 years old. I mean, it's most in NFL history. It's a huge youth movement in quarterbacks around the league. Now, you had to come in the old-fashioned way. I mean, you had to learn it on the fly, and the offenses weren't geared and the rules weren't geared like they are now to protect the quarterback and to get the ball out, the quick release passing, and all of that stuff. Is this a surprise to you to see how many young players are now coming in and having success so quickly?
Well, it's a great time to be playing quarterback and great time to be playing receiver. Quite honestly, you can't hit the quarterbacks, can't touch the receivers. I've actually even heard from a couple of friends that are deep into football. It's changed the way that the game is played from an offensive standpoint. Where, I mean, you remember the rule for a receiver was you don't run through zones. You run through zones, you're going to get your head knocked off. Now guys just run right through zones because they can't get hit. So it's a good thing for the game. I'm really happy they're doing it. I'm just a little bit jealous of quarterbacks who get to play now and don't have to get drilled in the back by the likes of Bruce Smith. But in terms of how well these young guys are playing, there are a couple of things that I would point to. Number one, it's playing quarterback like anything else you want to be proficient at. It's just about reps. It's about experience. And these guys are getting more and more reps at a younger and younger age, playing 7-on-7, throwing the ball a lot more in college. And so I think they're used to seeing the pictures more often than we did back in our day. And so I think that's part of it. But sure, it's fun to watch, man. Some of these kids coming in, they are really fun to watch. And I've always loved watching good quarterbacks play. That's why it was so cool for me to come to Buffalo and play against Jim Kelly, who was one of my heroes forever. So when I first broke into the league, it was just really, really cool to be able to be one of those young guys, at least initially, but also get to play against my heroes was pretty awesome.
Hey, Drew, you get to see Buffalo's young quarterback, Josh Allen, making his 18th NFL start on Sunday. Have you seen much of him? And any thoughts on, he's not just him, but the Bills haven't hit a lot of deep passes with Josh so far this year. Talk about those two things, if you can, your impressions of Josh Allen and about how hard it is to make that low percentage pass downfield.
Yeah, well, number one, I really like the kid. I really like what they're doing with him, too. They're playing to his strengths. They're letting him use his athleticism and run around and make some plays with his legs as well as throwing the rock downfield. But, I think, a lot of it, realize it is just his 18th start. You go back and look at, most young quarterbacks when they break in. The first year when Tommy came in, when I got hurt, it wasn't like he was throwing the ball, 40 yards downfield every snap and complete a bunch of long passes. It was a lot of short stuff to kind of get his feet wet and get him going. But Josh, he has huge arm talent, and so there's no doubt that there's the ability to get the ball downfield. It's just a progression that they got to go through, and those plays will start to hit. In the meantime, though, having the best defense in the league is a pretty comforting thing as a quarterback, and that's helping him out a lot.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts. You played in the league for a ton of years, and you've seen the evolution of it. What do you think is on the horizon for offenses in the NFL? I mean, now we see these guys running the quick screens, the quick release, to the wide out, right at the line of scrimmage. You see the flash sweeps, the jet sweep kind of stuff we see. They're stretching the field right at the line of scrimmage as well as vertically. What do you think the next step is for NFL offenses, and where do you think it's headed?
Well, it's kind of cool. You're seeing the college influence rise up into the NFL, where I think in the past, a lot of times those ideas had started in the NFL and percolated down to to college, and then even down to high school. And I think now you're seeing the opposite effect with some of these college offenses with, some zone reads. Now there aren't as many quarterbacks pulling the ball and running with it as there would be in college because they just don't want them to get hurt. But you're seeing zone read and then throwing off of the zone read. So the RPO type stuff that came out of college, which is it's fun to see some innovative stuff. The quick screens, generally the screen game like that is a little more difficult in the pros than it is in college because the linemen can't go downfield until the ball's caught. But I think by going horizontally with those screens, they're allowing the linemen to get out into the screen without having to be downfield. In terms of what the next step is, man, I don't know. I mean, there's only so much stuff you can do. It's kind of a copycat league, but I will tell you that I'm a big fan of what I've seen from Frank Reich, both when he was in Philly and now that he's in Indy. Really like what he's doing scheme-wise. Seems like he's giving his guys a pretty significant advantage a lot of the time.
Hey, Drew, tell us what you're up to these days. You mentioned selling more wine to pay for college tuitions, and the Doubleback Winery is what, a dozen years old now, right? You're doing well in the wine business out west, right?
Yeah, man, it's we're like a 10-year overnight success. It's been a ton of fun, man. Starting a business in my hometown. I grew up in Walla Walla, went back there. Thankfully, my little hometown's producing some of the best wine grapes in the world, so we're able to go back and capitalize on that. And now I get to travel and sell wine. My wife goes with me some of the time, and it's pretty fun. If you got to call it work, it's pretty fun work. Traveling around selling wine, and at the end of the night, getting to sit down with a glass of red wine in your hand doesn't suck. So it's been a lot of fun. Been a huge education. I came into business as a complete and utter rookie. It was like starting all over again, and had to learn and scratch my way up. But thankfully, it's been successful.
I'm sure it has.
Well, that's great. We'll look forward to seeing you here this week at the Philadelphia Eagles at the Buffalo Bills. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for joining us.
Right on. I'll look forward to seeing you guys. I'll be out there tomorrow, and then I'll be around Sunday. Can't wait.
Great.
All right.
Thanks, Drew. Drew Bledsoe, former Bills quarterback, returns as part of the Bills Legends community this weekend. He'll be here at the game on Sunday for the Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles.